example here from work, and we were in a situation a couple years ago where one of the groups that I manage is a planning team made up. It's a interdepartmental team that has members of each department in the company, and then we work together on the execution of new products. So I manage new products for Barkman. So each department essentially works together. They each have a role in bringing something to market. So that particular year, we were having some challenges with operationally getting some of these tasks done that we hadn't seen before. So what I did is I said, I'm going to meet with each team member individually, and let's talk about it and see what's going on. So there's one particular role where I knew we were having some definite bottlenecks in our flow. So I had this young lady come to my office and we closed the door, and I never have closed door meetings, so right away this is unusual, and I could tell that she was visibly guarded. She didn't really want to be there or talk about this at all. So I just asked her some questions about, help me understand what your job looks like. What does this process look like for you? So she told me that. She said, well, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do this, and I got to go back here, and and so she went through her whole kind of operation list that she goes through, and it was complicated, and she obviously was stressed out about it, and I kind of said, well, that I can see why this sucks and why you actually wouldn't want to do this. I wouldn't want to do this either. And the wall just dropped immediately, because there's something powerful in validating the feelings and experiences of the people that you're leading. And from there, the conversation completely opened up, and she was able to talk about the challenges, and we came out of the meeting with a plan where there's, to move this forward, these things need to happen. So how do we do that? And that afternoon, I got several emails from her with solutions, and I would pretty much guarantee that if I hadn't validated some of the emotional stresses that were attached to the function she was performing, we never would have got there. So there is value. So that's where the value comes in empathy for emotional interest. And I think those are two very good starting points on the negotiation front. So again, for the D's and C's to get really practical, there's a negotiation prep sheet in your package that we will run through very quickly. We're running out of time. And these are just some ways to help you just articulate what you're really after, and how to kind of pre-form some questions to address kind of when you're in the moment. So the first one simply is the goal. Think through the best and worst case scenarios, and write down a specific goal that represents your best case. Okay, so you want to present your best case scenario, so you have some room to move and to play. Right, you don't want to go in with your bottom line, because then you have nowhere to go. So from there, then also summarize a couple sentences and facts that have led up to the negotiation. Labeling is essentially a form of getting to empathy. So when people are talking in circles, or they're talking around a subject, to say, well, it seems like you might be stressed about this. You're labeling what they're talking about, and they will very quickly either say, yeah, I am stressed, and this is why, or they'll say, no, I'm not stressed, this is what it is. So it'll help get you to kind of some of the core issues that you're dealing with. Calibrated questions are just, they're meant to kind of suss out the deal killers in a negotiation. Like, if you get to yes too quickly, you're probably not getting the best deal that you can. Like, you kind of want to ask questions that tell you start hearing no's, because then that starts defining the boundary of what you're working with, and then you can go back to working within that sphere. And again, as a negotiator, you want to be fair, first of all, and you don't really want to talk about being fair, but you do want to be fair to the situation, because you're not only negotiating the deal, but you're also negotiating the context of your relationship going forward. So you want to, you don't want to leave money on the table, but you don't want to empty their pockets. You know what I mean? So you want to get the best that you can, but you don't want to take advantage of them, because you want to hopefully be in a position to do business with them again in the future. So calibrated questions will help you get there. And then the other thing is that there are non-cash offers. Like, cash really isn't, you know, it's one of the smallest things in a negotiation in many cases, that where it's if you're happy with that, you're getting a good price, then you're only starting the scope of your negotiation. And to give you an example of that, there's from my work, there's we do concrete, so we have to order in molds for every new product that we get. And these molds all come from Germany. They're all made of steel, and so they're heavy, they're costly, they're time consuming to produce and ship to us. And with myself being in product development, I'm dealing with timelines. So January 1 is our launch date. Like, so everything needs to be done by October. There's really very little wiggle room there. So when I deal with a company that I deal with in ordering molds, I almost never negotiate on price with them, because I know already that he's giving me a good price, because I've shopped around. So I know the price goes, so there's no point, there's no value in me haggling for an extra $5,000. It's not going to matter. But what I do haggle for, what I do negotiate for, is spots, the space in their production queue, and timeline, because timeline is what's actually important to me, and it's something that he can give to me at no cost. It's just scheduling, and he has to schedule it anyway. So I negotiate for that, because that's really what's important, and something that he can give to keep me a happy customer, and it doesn't cost him money. So when you look at negotiation, there are a ton of non-cash offers that have a lot of value. So I would encourage you to think about what that looks like. Whether you're negotiating for a job, you know, you might not negotiate on your wage as much. You can negotiate on holiday time. Like, there's other things that you can negotiate on. So that sheet is, I think, it's a good overview, and it'll get you started on thinking about what's important and what you want to get out of the situation. So the book recommendation I have for you is Getting to Yes, and this is kind of the Harvard Business School classic. And the reason it's not necessarily the best book, but it's the book that a lot of books coming after it refer back to. So that prep sheet I gave you is actually from another book called Never Split the Difference, which is about an FBI negotiator. It's a really interesting book. He pushes the line sometimes, so I'm not going to say I don't hard recommend it, but if you're just interested and you have common sense, then you'll be fine. But Getting to Yes is a good place to start, and this is really kind of the start of kind of empathy-based negotiation. So that is negotiation. Moving on.